Book 23, Odysseus and Penelope. Old Euryclea went up to an upstairs room, laughing to herself to inform her mistress her beloved husband was inside the house. She stood beside her lady's head and spoke to her. "Wake up, Penelope, my dear child, so you can see for yourself with your own eyes what you've been wanting each and every day. Odysseus has arrived. He may be late, but he's back in the house, and he's killed those arrogant suitors who upset this home, used up his goods, and victimized his son." Penelope rejoiced. She jumped out of bed, hugged the old woman, tears falling from her eyelids. Then she spoke to her. Her words had wings. "Come now, dear nurse, tell me the truth. If he's really here back home as you claim, then how could he turn his hands against those shameless suitors? He was alone, and in this house those men were always in a group." Her dear nurse Euryclea then answered her. "I didn't see or hear about it. I only heard the groans of men being killed. I found Odysseus standing with the bodies, dead men on the hard earth all around him, lying on each other, a heart-warming sight, and he was there, covered with blood and gore, just like a lion. Now come along with me, so you two can be happy in your hearts. You've been through so much misfortune, and now you've been looking forward to so long has come about at last. He's come alive. He's come himself to his own hearth, still alive. He's found you and your son inside these halls, and taken his revenge on all suitors in his home, men who acted harmfully against him." Wise Penelope then answered Euryclea. "But this story can't be true, not the way you told it. One of the immortal gods has killed the noble suitors out of rage at their heart-rending pride and wicked acts. They've met disasters through their foolishness, but in some place far away Odysseus has forfeited his journey to Achaea, and he himself is lost. You find it hard to grasp the plans of the eternal gods, even though you're really shrewd. But let's go to my son, so I can see the suitors now they're dead, and the man who killed them." Penelope spoke, then went down from the upper room. Crossing the stone threshold, she went in and sat down in the firelight opposite Odysseus, beside the further hall. He was sitting there by a tall pillar, looking at the ground, waiting to learn if his noble wife would speak to him when her own eyes caught sight of him. She sat there a long time in silence. Amazement came in her heart. Sometimes her eyes gazed at him full in the face, but other times she failed to recognize him. He had such shabby clothing over-covering his body. Telemachus spoke up, addressing a rebuke directly to her. "Mother, you're a cruel woman with an unfeeling heart. Why turn aside from my father in this way? Why not sit over there close to him, asking questions? No other woman's heart would be so hard to make her keep her distance from a husband who's come home to her in his native land in the 20th year, after going through so many harsh ordeals. That heart of yours is always harder than a stone." Wise Penelope then answered him, "My child, inside my heart is quite amazed. I cannot speak or ask questions or look directly at him. If indeed it's true he's Odysseus and is home again, surely the two of us have more certain ways to know each other. We have signs only we two understand. Other people will not recognize them." As she spoke, Lord Odysseus, who'd been through so much, smiled and immediately spoke to Telemachus, whose words had wings. "Telemachus, let your mother test me in these halls. She will soon possess more certain knowledge. Right now I'm filthy, with this disgusting clothing on my body. That's why she rejects me and will not say I am Odysseus." Once he said this, Eurynomé, the housekeeper, gave brave Odysseus a bath, rubbed him with oil, and put a tunic on him, a fine cloak as well. Athena poured beauty on him in large amounts to make him taller, more robust to look at, and on his head she made his hair flow in curls resembling a hyacinth in bloom. He sat back down in the chair from which he'd risen, opposite his wife, and said to her, "Strange lady, to you those who live on Mount Olympus have given, more so than to other women, an unfeeling heart. Another woman would harden herself and keep her distance from her husband, who in the 20th year came back to her in his own native land after going through so much misfortune. So come, nurse, spread out a bed for me, so I can lie down by myself. The heart inside her breast is made of iron." Wise Penelope then answered him, "Strange man, I'm not making too much of myself or ignoring you, nor is it the case that I'm particularly offended. I know well the sort of man you were when you left Ithaca in your long-oared ship. So come, Euryclea, sit up for him outside the well-built bedroom, that strong bed he made himself. Put that sturdy bedstead out there for him, and throw some bedding on, fleeces, cloaks, and shining coverlets." Penelope said this to test her husband, but Odysseus, angry at his true-hearted wife, spoke out, "Woman, those words you just uttered are very painful. Who shifted my beds to some other place? That would be difficult, even for someone really skilled, unless a god came down in person, for he could, if he wished, set it elsewhere easily. But among men there is no one living, no matter how much energy he has, who would find it easy to shift that bed. For built into the well-constructed bedstead is a great symbol, which I made myself, with no one else. A long-leaf olive bush was growing in the yard. It was in bloom and flourishing. It looked like a pillar. I built my bedroom round this olive bush till I had finished it with well-set stones. I put a good cover over it, then added a closely fitted jointed doors. After that, I cut back the foliage by removing branches from the long-leaf olive bush. I trimmed the trunk off upward from the root, cutting it skillfully and weld with bronze so it followed a straight line. Once I'd made the bedpost, I used an auger to bore out the entire piece. That was how I started. Then I carved out my bed till I was done, and that's the symbol I described for you. But, lady, I don't know if that bed of mine is still in the place, or some other man has cut that olive tree down at its base and set the bed up in a different spot. Odysseus spoke, and sitting there, Penelope went weak at the knees, and her heart grew soft, for she recognized that it was true, that symbol Odysseus had described to her. Eyes full of tears, she ran to him, threw her arms around his neck, kissed his head, and said, "Don't be angry, Odysseus, not with me. In all other matters you've been the cleverest of men. The gods have brought us sorrows. They were not willing the two of us should stay beside each other to enjoy our youth and reach together the threshold of old age. Now is not the time to rage at me, resenting what I've done because I didn't welcome you this way when I first saw you. For there are many men who dream up wicked schemes. Argive Helen, a child of Zeus, would never have had sex with a man who came from somewhere else if she'd known Achaea's warrior sons would bring her back to her dear native land. But now you've mentioned that clear symbol, our bed, which no one else has ever seen, other than the two of us, you and me, and a single servant woman, Octorus, whom my father gave me when I came here. For both of us she kept watch at the doors of our strong bedroom. You've now won my heart, though it's been truly stubborn." Penelope spoke, and stirred in him an even more intense desire to weep. As he held his loyal and loving wife, he cried, and rose-fingered early dawn would have appeared with them, still weeping there, if goddess Athena with the gleaming eyes had not thought of something else. She prolonged the lengthy night as it came to an end, keeping dawn and her golden throne waiting by ocean stream. While they went on talking to each other in this way, Eurynomé and the nurse prepared the bed with soft coverlets by light from the flaming torches. Once they'd quickly covered up the sturdy bed, the old nurse went back to her room to rest, and the bedroom servant Eurynomé led them on their way to bed, a torch gripped in her hands. When she brought them to the room, then she returned. Odysseus and Penelope approached with joy the place where their bed stood for earlier days. Odysseus and Penelope must have had the joy of making love, then entertained each other, telling stories and mutual conversation. The lovely lady talked of all she's been through in the house, looking at that destructive group, the suitors who, because of her, had butchered so many cattle and fat sheep and drained them from jars so much wine. Odysseus, born from Zeus, then told all the troubles he brought down on men, all the grief he had working on his own. Penelope was happy listening, and sleep did not come down across her eyelids until he told it all. Then Athena, goddess with the gleaming eyes, came up with something else. When she thought Odysseus had his heart full of pleasure with his wife and slept, from ocean she quickly stirred up early dawn on her golden throne to bring her light to men. Odysseus rose from his soft bed and told his wife, "Now that we've come back to the bed we love, you should tend to our wealth inside the house. As for the flocks those arrogant suitors stole, I'll seize many beasts as plunder on my own, and Achaeans will give others till they fill up each and every pen. Now I'm going to go out to my forest lands, and there I'll see my noble father, who, on my behalf, has suffered much anxiety. Ladies, since I know how intelligent you are, I'm asking you to follow these instructions. When sunrise comes, the story will be out about the suitors slaughtered in our home. So you should go up to your upper room with your female attendants. Then sit there, don't look in on anyone or ask questions." Once he said this, he put his lovely armor on around his shoulders and roused Telemachus, Philotas, and Eumaeus, and told them all to get weapons in their hands to fight a war. They did not disobey, but dressed themselves in bronze, opened the doors, and went outside with Odysseus in the lead. By now light was shining on the ground, but Athena kept them hidden by the night, as she led them quickly from the city. Book 24. Zeus and Athena End the Fighting. Once Odysseus and his men had left the city, they soon wished to his fine, well-managed farm, which Laertes had once won by his own efforts, working really hard. His house was there with sheds surrounding it on every side, where his servants, bonded slaves, who worked to carry out his wishes, ate and sat and slept. An old Sicilian woman lived inside his house, looking after the old man, caring for him at the farm, far from the city. Odysseus then spoke to his servants and his son. "You should go inside the well-built home. Hurry up and kill the finest pig there is so we can eat. I'll sound out my father to find out if he can recognize me, see who I am once he's laid eyes on me, or if he doesn't know me anymore, since I've been away so long." Odysseus spoke, then gave his battle weapons to his servants. In the well-established vineyard he found his father. He was digging round a plant all by himself. dressed in a filthy, shabby, patched-up tunic. Around his legs he tied thin pads stretched from oxhide to protect himself from scratches, and on his hands he was wearing gloves, since there were thistles in that spot. On his head he wore a goatskin hat. In these clothes he was dealing with his grief. He stirred Odysseus' heart. Already, as he looked at his dear father, sharp pains were shooting up from his nostrils. He jumped over, embraced Laertes, kissed him, and then said, "Father, I'm here, back home in the 20th year in my own native land. Stop your grieving these tearful moans. I'll tell you everything, though it's essential we move really fast. I've killed the suitors in our home, avenged their heart-rending insolence, their evil acts." Laertes then answered him and said, "If that's true, if you are indeed my son Odysseus and have come back, show me some evidence, something clear so I can be quite certain." Resourceful Odysseus replied to him and said, "First, let your eyes inspect this scar. A boar inflicted that on me with its white tusk, when I went to Parnassus, sent there by you and by my honorable mother to her cherished father Antilochus, so I could get the gifts he'd promised me, what he'd agreed to give when he was here." As Odysseus spoke, his father's fond heart and knees gave way. He clearly recognized the evidence Odysseus had presented. He threw both his arms around his son he loved and struggled hard to breathe. Lord Odysseus, who had endured so much, held him. After he had revived and his spirits came once more into his chest, Laertes spoke once again and said, "Father Zeus, it seems you gods are still on high Olympus. If it's true, those suitors have paid the price of their proud arrogance. But now my heart contains a dreadful fear. All the men of Ithaca will soon come here against us, and they'll send out messengers all through Cephallenia to every city. Resourceful Odysseus then answered him and said, "Take courage and don't allow these things to weigh down your heart. Let's go to the house, the one close to the orchard where I sent Telemachus together with the swineherd and the keeper of the goats, so they could prepare a meal as soon as possible." After they talked this, they went to the fine house. Once they reached Laertes' well-furnished home, they found Telemachus with the swineherd and goat keeper carving lots of meat and mixing gleaming wine. Meanwhile, the other men had finished working. Dinner was prepared. So they sat down one by one on stools and chairs. As they were reaching for the food, old Odysseus appeared. The old man's sons were with him, tired out from work. The ancient Sicilian woman, their mother, had gone outside and summoned them. Odysseus went straight up to them, both arms outstretched, grabbed Odysseus' hand and kissed it on the wrist. Then he spoke to him. His words had wings. "My friend, you're back with us, who longed for your return but never thought to see it. The gods themselves must have been leading you. Joyful greetings. May gods grant you success." Then Odysseus' sons also came up around glorious Odysseus, clasping his hands with the words of welcome. Meanwhile, rumor of the messenger sped swiftly through the entire city, speaking of the suitors' dreadful death, their destiny. People heard about it all at once and came in from all directions, gathering with mournful groans before Odysseus' home. Each one brought his dead outside the house and buried them. All the men from other cities they sent home, placing them aboard swift ships to be escorted back by sailors. Then with sorrowful hearts they went in person to meet in an assembly. Once they got there together in a group, Eupeithes rose to speak, casting briefly on his heart for his own son, Antinous, the first man killed by Lord Odysseus. Weeping for him, he spoke to the assembly. "My friends, this man has planned and carried out a dreadful act against the Achaeans. He led many fine courageous men off in his fleet, then lost his hollow ships, with all men dead. Now he's come and killed our finest men by far among the Cephallenians. So come on. Before you can quickly get to Pylos or to holy Elis where Epeans rule, let's get started. If not, in future days we'll be eternally disgraced, since men yet to be born will learn about our shame, if we don't act to take out our revenge on those murderers of our sons and brothers. As far as I'm concerned, the life we'd live would not be sweet. I'd rather die right now and live among the dead. So let us go, in case those men have a head start on us and get across the sea." As Eupeithes said this, he wept, and all the Achaeans were seized by pity. Then Medon and the godlike singer, released from sleep, approached them from Odysseus' house and stood up in their midst. They were astonished. Then Medon, a shrewd man, spoke out. "Men of Ithaca, now hear me. Odysseus didn't plan these acts with the gods' consent. I myself observed an immortal god who stood beside him, looking at every detail just like Mentor. The deathless god appeared before Odysseus at that time to spur him into action, and at another time charged the hall, terrifying the suitors. They collapsed in droves. He ended. Some suitors stayed together in their seats, but others, more than half, jumped up with noisy shouts. Their hearts had not responded to what he just said. They were won over by Eupeithes, and so they quickly rushed away to get their weapons. Then Athena spoke to Zeus, Cronos' son, saying, "Father of us all and son of Cronos, highest of all those who rule, answer me when I ask this. What are you concealing in that mind of yours? Will you be creating further brutal war and dreadful battle, We'll bring both sides together here as friends. Cloud Gatherer Zeus then answered her and said, My child, why are you asking this of me? Why these questions? Were you not the one who devised this plan all on your own, so Odysseus could take out his revenge against these men after you got back? Do as you wish. But I'll lay out for you what I think is right. Since Lord Odysseus has paid back the suitors, let them swear a binding oath that he'll remain their king all his life, and let's make them forget the killing of their sons and brothers. Let them love each other as they used to, and let there be wealth and peace and plenty. His words stirred up Athena, who was already keen. She swooped down from the heights of Mount Olympus. Meanwhile, once his group had eaten their hearts' fill of food and sweet as honey, Lord Odysseus had endured so much, was the first to speak. Someone should go outside to look around to see whether they are getting close to us. Once he said this, a son of Dolius went out, as he had ordered. He stood in the doorway and saw all those men approaching. At once he called Odysseus. His words had wings. They're here, close by. Let's get our weapons. We'd better hurry. At these words, they leapt up and put on their armor. Odysseus and his men were 4, the sons of Dolius 6, and with them Dolius and Laertes, though they had gray hair, were dressed in armor too, forced to be warriors. When they put on glittering bronze around their bodies, they opened up the doors and went outside. Odysseus led them out. But then Athena, Zeus's daughter with the shape and voice of a mentor, came up to them, stood by Laertes, and said to him, Child of Archesius, by far the dearest of all those I cherish, pray to the young girl with the flashing eyes and to Father Zeus. Then without delay raise that long spear of yours and throw it. Pallas Athena spoke and then breathed into him enormous power. Laertes said a prayer to praise his daughter, and quickly lifting up his long shadowed spear, he threw it. It hit home, the bronze cheek piece on a piece of his helmet, which didn't stop the spear. The bronze point went on through. Epictetus fell down with a thud, his armor crashing around him. Odysseus and his splendid son charged at the fighters in the front, striking them with swords and two-edged spears. They'd have killed them all, cut them down, so none of them returned, had not Athena, daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus, cried out. Her voice held back every man in that whole army. Men of Ithaca, stop this disastrous war, so you can quickly go your separate ways without spilling any blood. Athena spoke, and pale fear gripped the men. They were so terrified they dropped their weapons and all fell on the ground at that goddess's resounding voice. They turned round back toward the city, eager to save their lives. Then much enduring Lord Zeus gave out a fearful shout, gathered himself, and swooped down like an eagle from on high. But at that moment Zeus, son of Cronos, shot a fire thunderbolt. It struck at the feet of the bright-eyed daughter of that mighty father. And then Athena, goddess with the glittering eyes, said to Odysseus, Resourceful Odysseus, Laertes' son, and child of Zeus, hold back. Stop this fight, this impartial war, in case thundering Zeus, who sees far and wide, grows angry with you. Once Athena spoke, Odysseus obeyed, joy in his heart. And then Pallas Athena, daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus, in shape and form looking just like Mentor, had both parties swear a solemn treaty designed to last forever.